So I talked in a previous video about this problem of knowledge if you say that there's no free will. Like, how can you know anything, or how can you know that anything is correct if you have no free will? Uh, One way of putting it is to say, well, if you come to the conclusion that there's no free will, you had no free will in coming to that conclusion. Um, but the problem is actually more general than that. It's if you come to any conclusion, whether it's that 2 plus 2 equals 4 or the earth revolves around the sun, if you come to any conclusion, you had no free will in coming to that conclusion. So, how can you know that anything's right? Uh, and I think to look at this problem, it helps to first step back and go back to okay, let's say we do have free will. How do we commonly view knowledge? And I think the way we commonly view it is that there's this separate me that's, or I, that is separate from the rest of the world. And this me is able to learn things about the world, get information about the world, and perform reasoning, perform rational thought, and come to conclusions, and ultimately to possess knowledge, right? This me is able to interact with the world in that way. And the me basically, figures things out over time. Sometimes I make mistakes, I come to incorrect conclusions, but I have some ability to correct myself and learn and eventually get to some useful knowledge, right? Uh, okay, but when you take away free will, it seems like what happens is that whole setup of me and the world gets flattened or smushed together, and there is no more me and the world. It's all just the same, right? And really, everything is just a happening. Things just happen. So it's not that I'm learning and thinking and concluding and figuring stuff out. It's just thinking happens. Thinking seems to happen. It just feels like thinking is going on. It feels like conclusions are being reached. It feels like a correct conclusion has been arrived at. It feels like knowledge has been gained. Uh, it's all just kind of smushed, flattened. There's no more separate me and the rest of the world. And I think that's why it seems so strange to have knowledge when there's no free will. Our whole idea of knowledge is based upon this idea that I can know things, you know. Um, and yeah, that seems to be the main issue to me.